It is not clear whether McFarland was saying she believed that the election had in fact been thrown. A White House lawyer said Friday that she meant only that the Democrats were portraying it that way. But it is evident from the emails, which were obtained from someone who had access to transition team communications, that after learning that President Barack Obama would expel 35 Russian diplomats, the Trump team strategized about how to reassure Russia. The Trump advisors feared that a cycle of retaliation between the United States and Russia would keep the spotlight on Moscow's election meddling, tarnishing Trump's victory and potentially hobbling his presidency from the start. As part of the outreach, McFarland wrote, Flynn would be speaking with the Russian ambassador, Kislyak, hours after Obama's sanctions were announced. Key will be Russia's response over the next few days, McFarland wrote in an email to another transition official, Thomas Bossert, now the president's Homeland Security advisor. Michael Flynn arrives at the U.S. courthouse where he pleaded guilty on Friday to making false statements to the FBI. Photo Bloomberg. In an interview, Ty Cobb, the White House lawyer handling the Russia inquiry, said there was nothing illegal or unethical about the transition team's actions. It would have been political malpractice not to discuss sanctions, he said, adding that the Presidential Transition Guide specifically encourages contact with and outreach to foreign dignitaries. The only problem, Cobb said, was that Flynn had lied to White House officials and to FBI agents about what he had told the Russian ambassador. Flynn's misstatements led to his firing in February and his guilty plea Friday to charges of lying to federal agents. President Donald Trump greets guests into the South Lawn on Saturday night photo op with Flynn's plea and agreement to cooperate with Robert Mueller, the special counsel investigating the Russian election interference. The inquiry edges closer to Trump. In a tweet on Saturday, Trump said Flynn's contacts with Russians before the inauguration didn't violate law. I had to fire General Flynn because he lied to the vice president and the FBI. He has pled guilty to those lies. It is a shame because his actions during the transition were lawful. There was nothing to hide, Trump told his almost 44 million Twitter followers. A protester stands outside federal court as former Trump National Security Advisor Michael Flynn pleaded guilty. Photo op. The president tried to persuade FBI Director James Comey to drop the Bureau's criminal investigation of Flynn, and fired Comey after he failed to comply. Trump and his aides have suggested that his concern about Flynn's potential legal jeopardy was motivated mainly by the president's admiration for his former national security advisor's military service and character. Donald Trump arrives back at the White House on Saturday after attending a fundraising event in New York. Photo Bloomberg. But the new details about Flynn's Russia contacts underscore the possibility that the president may have been worried not just about Flynn but also about whether any investigation might reach into the White House and perhaps to the Oval Office. That question will be at the center of any consideration by Mueller of whether Trump's actions constituted obstruction of justice. The Trump transition team ignored a pointed request from the Obama administration to avoid sending conflicting signals to foreign officials before the inauguration and to include State Department personnel when contacting them. Besides the Russian ambassador, Flynn, at the request of the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, contacted several other foreign officials to urge them to delay or block a UN resolution condemning Israel over its building of settlements. Marine One, carrying U.S. President Donald Trump, prepares to land on the South Lawn. Photo op. Cobb said the Trump team had never agreed to avoid such interactions. But one former White House official has disputed that, telling Mueller's investigators that Trump transition officials had agreed to honor the Obama administration's request. Bossert forwarded McFarland's December 29 email exchange on the sanctions to 6 other Trump advisors, including Flynn Reince Priebus, who had been named as Chief of Staff, Stephen Bannon, the senior strategist, and Sean Spicer, who would become press secretary. Obama, she wrote, was trying to box Trump in diplomatically with Russia, which could limit his options with other countries, including Iran and Syria. Russia is key that unlocks door, she wrote. In his phone call with Kislyak, Flynn asked that Russia not escalate the situation, according to court documents released Friday. He later related the substance of the call, including the discussion of sanctions, to a senior transition official, believed to be McFarland. A few days later, he briefed others on the transition team. Flynn's move appeared to have a dramatic effect. To the surprise of foreign policy experts, President Vladimir Putin of Russia did not immediately respond with retaliatory expulsions of Americans from Moscow. Trump praised that decision in a tweet, writing, "Great move on delay by V. Putin. I always knew he was very smart." It is uncertain how involved Trump was in the discussions among his staff members of Flynn's conversation with the Russian ambassador. Spicer told reporters on the morning of December 29 that the president-elect would be meeting with his national security team, including McFarland, that day. A phone call that included Trump, Flynn, McFarland, Priebus and Bannon was scheduled for 5 p.m., shortly after McFarland's email exchange. It is unclear whether the call took place. Cobb said Trump did not know that Flynn had discussed sanctions with Kislyak in the call. After the inauguration, Flynn specifically denied it to him, in the presence of witnesses, he said. The New York Times, with Bloomberg. Sign up for our daily wrap of the news you need to start your day.